And it's a very basic for loop. We don't have any while loops, no do while loops, just for loops. And for my newbies that are new to programming, so a for loop allows you to iterate over something, like iterate over a list. So let's say you have a data extension, you have multiple people in a data extension, and maybe you want to build a table, and you want to output everyone in that table, output everyone in that data extension into a table, right? So the way that you would do that is you would use a for loop to iterate over that data extension to then output them in a table in an email message. And then we also have the ability to do comments. So like most programming languages, we have the ability to do a multi-line comment. It's really the same syntax for a multi-line comment. And then we also have the ability to do single-line comments, which for new people, comments are really what help people to understand what it is you wrote. So sometimes developers are in and out, they're contractors, they write some code, and a new developer might come in and might not have the context. So a comment is where you really allow people to come in after you to understand what it is you wrote, why you wrote it, and what a single block of code or multi-line block of code is doing. Okay, so we do have two ways that you can write your AMPscript code. One of it is in a full block. So at the top we have the block version, and then another one is called inline. So the block is you declare instead of full block of AMPscript code if you know that you're going to have a long, block of code. You don't want to keep writing like open curly brace, or those are parens, open parentheses sign, close parentheses. You don't want to have to do that on every single line, right? Especially, it could just be annoying. So we have the ability for you to do a whole block so that you don't have to keep writing single lines of code and doing all of those extra characters. And the output is ultimately the same for both of them. So you'll see there that we did the first name, the greeting, all in a block of code, and then at the bottom we used the single inline version of AMPscript, and it evaluates to the same thing. And so here's what AMPscript looks like if you were to write an entire block, creating some variables, setting those variables, and then outputting those variables into an email or wherever you would like to do, maybe even a web message or web page. Okay, so that's the first language. The next language is server-side JavaScript. You have any JavaScript coders in the room? Okay, awesome. All right, so server-side JavaScript is a little bit like elementary Node.js because it works with the server. It does not work with the browser or in terms of the document object model. So you can't, reference HTML tags or anything like that in the DOM. It also does not function with exterior libraries. So it has two built-in libraries that are the platform and core libraries. Those are all that you can use. The functions that are there are the functions you can use. You cannot create your own classes. You cannot create your own functions. You cannot create your own methods. You must use the classes and functions and methods that are already there in one of those libraries, at least for right now. But where I see that this is more powerful, so AMPscript is very, very beginner friendly, right? And it's very, very powerful with email messages and sometimes landing pages as well. So SSJS is really, really powerful, mostly with landing pages. I tried hard, I couldn't really find a good use case for usage in an email message template. So if you're already working with client-side JavaScript, you're pulling in some data from an external system via JSON, you're gonna want to stick with using JavaScript or server-side JavaScript to do some of the server-side functions and logic. So you can loop through arrays. So we already saw what a loop looked like. It's the same JavaScript for loop that you're familiar with. And one of the major things that's different between AMPscript and SSJS is you get the try-catch. So if you like doing a lot of error handling, AMPscript doesn't do error handling really well right now. But with SSJS, for any type of error handling, you can use the try-catch block with SSJS. Okay, so there is still the ability to use client-side JavaScript in Marketing Cloud. And what you would typically do is you would upload your JavaScript file to code resources, which if you're a Salesforce programmer and you're familiar with static resources, code resources is a lot like static resources, but basically static resources for Marketing Cloud. And then you would just import that file on your landing page using Cloud Pages and Web Studio, and then from there you would be able to use the JavaScript that's there if you don't want to necessarily like embed it in the actual landing page. Okay, so we talked about a little bit. So the platform library is there for email messaging, but again, I didn't really find it that useful when I was working with it. The core library is very, very useful. It's mostly used for the Marketing Cloud landing pages. And one of the good things about using these out-of-the-box libraries is that as there are updates, so sometimes we make updates to the functions, etc., to the arguments, different types of syntax updates, all of those will still work. So versus if you had your own JavaScript code, we might break something when we do an update to our SSJS. So just a quick comparison of AMPscript versus SSJS. So one of the things I actually want to say about AMPscript is, as of summer 23 release, AMPscript can now parse JSON, which before AMPscript could not do. But summer 23 release, AMPscript can now parse JSON. So just like SSJS and guide template language, it can parse JSON. Previously it couldn't. If you're new to programming, I say try AMPscript because it's a very, very basic language. It's very, very easy to use. People that are already doing Java, JavaScript code, Apex, you're gonna pick up both SSJS and AMPscript pretty easily. But usually, most people are familiar with AMPscript. Most email messages and most of the things done in Cloud Pages are written with AMPscript for personalization. And sometimes that's all you need. You don't need to always over-engineer things. So AMPscript is very useful for that. Okay, we do have this little nifty thing called guide template language that I did want to cover that is not really used that much, to be honest. And guide template language has a handlebar or mustache style syntax, is what they call it. It was primarily used to parse JSON before we came out with SSJS and before we added the parsing function to AMPscript. So that was what people mostly used it for, was to parse JSON when they were doing a REST API call or any type of API call. And it's really not that widely used. But I just wanted to make everyone aware that it does exist. So this is an example of what guide template language looks like. You can see we're bringing in some records, and then we're outputting those records, first name, last name, category preference, into as if it were an email template. Okay. So the next language that I'm going to talk about is structured query language, SQL, which if you're a Salesforce programmer, you're already kind of used to working with relational database systems, working with SQL, which is really like watered down SQL. So our SQL in Marketing Cloud is a little bit watered down as well. The only way that you can execute SQL right now in Marketing Cloud is through Automation Studio and a SQL query activity. So you have to you have to create an automation, and then you have to drag the SQL query activity onto the automation canvas, and then from there you have to create a data extension that holds the output of those records for which you are querying. So the primary usage of SQL query activities is to pull data from data extensions or query data from data extensions, and also to query data from system data views. So we have a wide variety of system data views on our marketingcloudhelp.com website. So basically, you can create things to monitor automation. So you can query for all of the Journey Builder sends over the last 24 hours, or any type of system data that is happening, you can query for that. So emails that went out over the last 24 hours, emails that didn't go out. So if you want to store that information in a data extension or a table, you'll need to use a SQL query activity to do that. So you can use a report if all you want to do is view the data, but if you want to do something with that data, then you have to query it and then put it into a data extension via a SQL query activity. Okay. And online, we have all of the data views listed as well. And so something that people might find nifty is if they want to output, all of the automations that failed over a certain period. So some that failed yesterday, canceled yesterday. I mean, you can see those via the UI in Automation Studio, but let's say you want to capture that data into a table, or any type of data you want to capture into a data extension. You would use the SQL query activity to query. Okay. So right next to each other. So right now, these are our 4 languages available for working with email messages as well as cloud pages in Marketing Cloud. We have AMPscript, server-side JavaScript, as well as guide template language and structured query language, which is SQL. So AMPscript is mostly used to personalize your emails and used sometimes with your cloud pages. SSJS, I would say, mostly used with cloud pages, so with your client-side JavaScript, and then using this for your server-side. And then guide template language previously was mostly used with REST API integrations for parsing the JSON into email templates or landing pages. And then structured query languages for querying, you can query data extensions, you can query lists, or you can query system tables. So a data view is a system table on the back end. So that's what you can use SQL query activities for. And again, it's an Automation Studio, and you have to set that up. All right. So anybody have a favorite programming language that they came in here with? And it doesn't have to be Marketing Cloud. It could be any programming language. What's your favorite programming language?
SQL.
SQL, awesome.
PHP.
PHP, great. Anyone else? Not one for you? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause for a second and actually bring up Marketing Cloud, which I am sure has timed out on me because it doesn't typically have a very long login. Yeah, your session is expired. Kind of expected. Okay. It's drawing a blank on my password for a second. This handy dandy app I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. Authenticator. Okay. So here's a live look at Marketing Cloud. This is my learning account, which is basically like my version of a sandbox. Unfortunately, right now, we don't have the ability to provision Marketing Cloud sandboxes, so something that I yell at product about all the time, but they haven't moved on it yet, mostly because we're coming out with our new Marketing Cloud in the future, which will look a lot like Core, and it will also be built on Core. So currently right now, I'm gonna go over here to Email Studio, where I already have one of my examples built out, just to show you what it looks like in real life, not on a slide. Okay, so here you can see, here's my email template, here's my subject, my header, as well as my actual template. So this is my guide template language example. So here you'll see I have first name, last name, preferred name, just basically some basic variables in here. And then I'm gonna go here to preview and test. And you'll see here is my test data and my test data extension, and it just pops that information right in there. So very, very easy, extremely easy. And then I have another example of one using AMPscript, just so you can see what it looks like. So here's the AMPscript. Now, there was something that was just announced at Connections, and I'm sure you guys weren't able to fly to Connections and then get back here, which I was asked to do. I was like, yeah, that can't do that. Just can't do it. So previously, you could only code, and you would have to use like your Notepad++, an editor, and then paste it in here, and then it just looks awful, right? A lot of people were also only coding inside of this editor, which was a little bit of a nightmare. So forward-looking statement here, we are currently working on a VS Code plugin for AMPscript right now. And I'm really, really excited about it. It's currently not working on my laptop. I have a meeting with product next week. But I do have some stuff that I could show you on it. So we'll just go here really quickly to preview and test. And you'll see here that all that AMPscript has now switched over to a very, very pretty email message that's formatted and templated with all the actual values from the data extension plugging in. So now with the VS Code plugin, so the VS Code plugin will support AMPscript partially, so not all functions yet. They're still working on it, but SSJS and guide template language will not be supported at this time, but it's new, so you know we're still working on it. And then I also had a little bit of a video to show. Sorry. You might not be able to hear this.
They plan on their own machines.
I'm going to actually mute this because I want to talk through this rather than him talking through this. So what you'll be able to do essentially is launch from VS Code your email messages and your web pages on your machine as a local host off of a local host. And then you will have all of this in VS Code. So you'll be able to see the variables and where they're coming from and how they're getting populated in VS Code. You'll be able to do some more advanced debugging because there will be the actual variables being stored in VS Code. You'll be able to see all your functions. You'll be able to have autocomplete. So it'll be really, really nice and really, really sleek once we're finished getting it up and running. So I was told I had to keep this a secret till Connections, and now Connections is over, and this is the perfect time. But I was really, really excited about this because sometimes innovation can come a little bit slow to Marketing Cloud, and we all know anyone that's worked with Marketing Cloud and the actual editor, it's not that great. So we are currently working on a editor inside of VS Code. And so here you can see the variables and how they're getting populated. And at runtime, it will show you the variables as they're switching so that you can know what's actually being held in those variables. And you can see this update in real time on the browser for your email message templates. So pretty cool stuff we're working on right now. Forward-looking statement. All right.
It is not generally available?
It is not generally available, and it is not in beta either. Yeah, so forward-looking statement, but it's something that we're working on.
Do you
All right.
have any expectations of time scale?
No.
That's right.
Okay, so let's go back here to presenter view. All right. Wait, that's not what I wanted. Go back, go back. That's not what I wanted. Uh-oh, what did I do? Okay, there we go. That's what I need to be. All right, so we're gonna delve a little bit into APIs with, I'm looking at the time that I have left, and you guys let me know when to cut me off. So currently, Marketing Cloud has the SOAP API as well as the REST API available. So SOAP API is mostly used with Email Studio. Email Studio's APIs haven't been rewritten because it's still basically on the old Microsoft SQL Server stack. And so they just haven't been rewritten yet. So if you want to do anything with Email Studio connecting from an external system, you will have to use the SOAP API. Now, there's other things that are available under the REST API, and I'll show you a little bit of that. I'm going to show you guys our Postman collection as well. And so in this slide, it shows you when to use what. So what we have under REST is anything dealing with contacts, content builder, journey builder, mobile connect, mobile push, campaigns, triggered sends, or even data extensions. If you're doing some type of integration, you're going to be working with the REST API. Now, if you're doing anything with triggered sends, data extensions are also supported under SOAP, but subscriber lists, automations, content, email tracking, administration, those are all going to have functionality currently available under the SOAP API and not the REST API, Marketing Cloud. And so we do have a Postman collection available that you can copy, and I'm going to give a quick demo on that with the time that I have left. And then we also have a lot of documentation available online as well. Okay, so I'm going to go back here to Marketing Cloud, and this portion I'm going to ask that nobody video except for them, because I'm going to have it changed by then, and no one take pictures of, because you're going to be seeing my open API codes and all that stuff, and I don't want anybody hacking my system. So you could, when I put the client secret and the client ID up, if you could not take any pictures or video, any of that, until I give the okay that I could take this down and rechange it, that would be great. So I'm going to go over here to setup. To show you what I've done already. And under setup, we have this thing called apps and installed packages. Now, quick question, has anyone worked with the REST or SOAP API in Marketing Cloud yet? Awesome, awesome. So majority of people, this will be very new and unfamiliar too. Okay, so how you first enable the Marketing Cloud API is you have to go to setup and then apps, and then you have to create an installed package, right? And it's very, very easy. It sounds more complicated than what it is, but you basically would just click new, you would type in your package details. So I'm gonna say, London's calling, API demo. And then I would go down here to add component. I would choose API integration, click next, and then I'm going to choose server to server. Now there's different information online about what's the difference between the web app, the public app, the server to server. There's certain nuances between them, like some of them don't get a client secret, client ID. All of those are posted online for what the nuances are. For this one, I'm going to choose server to server. And then here is where you define your scope. Now, what is scope? Scope is what exactly in Marketing Cloud this API integration user has access to. So what they can read, what they can write, what they can send to. And so that's where you would define all this. So I'm just gonna hit a couple of things and then click save. And then what it creates is a client ID and a client secret as well as a subdomain, which is under your base URI. And you get a different REST base URI as well as a SOAP base URI, but you can still use the base URI for both REST and SOAP calls. But these are just specific. So the REST base URI is if you specifically want to use REST calls, and then the SOAP base URI is if you want to use SOAP, if you're doing specifically a SOAP API call. And then down here, you'll see all the scope. So that's really how easy it is to open the API access in Marketing Cloud. It's very, very simple. I'm going to work on a blog on this because we don't have really much out there. So I'm going to work on a blog on this and then post it to our developer.salesforce.com/blog site. That was a plug. So then there's something that looks sometimes even a little bit scary, which is our Postman collection. And our Postman collection is actually managed by one of my colleagues that is here today giving a talk, Philippe Ozil. And under here, we have many different collections. So we have Salesforce Platform APIs, but you also have the Marketing Cloud APIs. And the way to take a copy of this is literally just to click fork. And then from fork, it'll break off your own private collection from our public collection that you could start working with, playing with, and stuff like that. So once you do that, what you would do is you would come up here and you would configure a few variables. So remember, I showed you in my package that I created, I had a subdomain, a client ID, a client secret, and then the mid ID is your Marketing Cloud ID. So as you know, if you work with Salesforce, every Salesforce, system has its own unique ID under company information that when you call support, you give them your organization ID. Same thing in Marketing Cloud, but it's called a mid or the MID. So what you'll do is you'll come in here, and again, please don't take any pictures or film this, but you'll put in your subdomain, your client ID, your client secret, and the mid that got generated when we created that package. And then from there, you'll be able to start running your API calls from there. And so I'm going to go down here, and all I'm going to do is get user info and click send. 401 unauthorized. What did I do wrong? Let me try and refresh this. All of that is configured correctly. I was getting this last night too. Let me. Okay, requested a new token. So that went through, requesting a new token. So you see I have the status at 200. So it is hitting the Marketing Cloud account. Let's see if this one will work now that I got a new token. Do 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 do. Demo day. It's always demo day stuff. Okay, it's still sending the request. Let's try. Could not, okay. Why are you not working? Let's try this again. Okay, there it goes. It's working now. Okay, status 200, okay. So here you see I just did a basic get from Postman to basically get my user info, which the user info is the integration user info. So here you see this is my LA, Danielle Larregui. No smart smoke and mirrors, not on this demo. So this is actually my account, LA, Danielle Larregui. And then enterprise, and then it's currently set to Central Time Zone, but you can see it's doing the server to server integration that I set up. And then it's showing me all of the permissions that I have for this user. So it's pulling back all the permissions for that particular user. And if I go here back to my installed packages, so the one that I set up previously, server to server integration, you'll see that those are all of the permissions right here as well. So that's really how you can use Postman to test the API and how you can connect it. And I had one more demo with Postman, but we're only got 5 minutes left, so I want to save it for questions. Any questions? Yes.
Is it possible that you mentioned you're on like a Marketing Cloud learning? Is it possible to get those publicly?
No, not at the time. Not at this time, no. I wish. I'm still working on them. I'm wearing them down. Yeah.
You mentioned that the new Marketing Cloud will be moved to the core platform. Is that common knowledge? Because I've not heard that. And anything more you can tell us?
Yeah, it's being worked on. Now, how long? It might be 5 years, it might be 7 years, it might be 10 years, but it is a project that's in the works.
So, just to
Want to wait for Mike? Just to come back to his question, will that be really different from the current Marketing Cloud platform that we have?
It will. It will have a more Salesforce user experience. And actually, if you go back and look at the TDX demo, the one that was done with Data Cloud, that actually, where they said it was marketing, and I'm like, what? That doesn't look like Marketing Cloud, that looks like Salesforce. That actually is showing you what the new unified marketing experience will look like. So if you go back to the TDX Data Cloud demo, where they're doing Data Cloud for marketing, Data Cloud for all these things, they're showing the new unified marketing experience that would look like on Core.
And one last question that I have is, a couple of days ago, they announced Marketing GPT,
At Connect.
and how that will change our work as a Salesforce Marketing Cloud developer or consultant.
Yeah, so Marketing Cloud GPT is going to be a lot like Einstein GPT for marketing. It's going to basically give you some recommendations on your headers, sort of like what Einstein recommendations already does today. So it's mostly going to be like an assistant. And you can ask it answers and it'll give different suggestions, similar to what Einstein recommendations does today.
Yeah, as well, would it be able to do more automation with it?
The automation wizard, will it be able to like execute automations for you? Is that the question?
No, is Marketing Cloud, Marketing GPT will have a bigger impact concerning the automation of Marketing Cloud?
I don't think it will have, it will have a big impact as more of like an assistant, like something there for you, but it won't actually like send the emails for you or do all of the work for you. But it's more going to be there as an assistant to make recommendations and to help you through Marketing Cloud, like a resource.
Okay, thank you.
I have 1 minute and 50 seconds left on this timer.
So Marketing Cloud also handle the messaging services like
Sorry?
OTPs. So Marketing Cloud just handle the email services or also the mobile message service?
Oh yeah, it handles everything. So we have Mobile Studio, which can do push messages. We have a mobile SDK for both iOS and Android. So it does mobile messages. It does email messages. It has a web functionality. There's also an integration with Data Cloud where you can capture web and mobile events and push that to Data Cloud. So it really is a whole entire system, like a whole platform. There's many things available in it. Google Ads Studio, Facebook ads, lookalike audiences. It does a lot.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you. The question was about AMPscript. I think, and it's what I experienced, it's quite hard to find resources to learn about AMPscript, even on the official help of Salesforce. Do you have tips to find additional resources to learn more about AMPscript? Because I know we have tons of functions available, but I have no clue where to find those functions.
Oh yeah, it's on our help.salesforce.com site. So it's a great question. So we have videos out there on our YouTube channel. Also, I've written a few blogs on our salesforce.developers.com/blogs. I have one specifically on AMPscript if you want to check out our blogs. But as far as AMPscript functions, yeah, we know. So we have some documentation here on and it has like the entire function library on our help.salesforce.com site. But also, I'll be here all day, so if you want to, I can sit with you at some point and show you the functions and where our functions are on here.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
What we've seen is that there's market overload. People are buying really expensive technology, but they're really not making the most out of it.
We We want to show people can strategize now to plan for the future and plan to kickstart those projects.